So let's introduce Medvale a little bit. You know, Medvale Media is the platform that brings us Megaphone. It's the place where our guests get to come on and be interviewed. But Medvale is much more than a media platform. And it is a community of people, of healthcare leaders from across the country, all executive level of varying stripes, some business owners, some people involved in hospitals and health systems, independent physicians, physicians that have been in the business a very long time. It's just such an amazing tapestry of talent, Tom. I am still amazed that I have a privilege to be part of it. So why don't you give us your take on Medvale itself and the role Medvale can play as we start contemplating true transformation in healthcare?
Oh, I think that you're right, Dave. This is every day I meet someone, new person in Medvale, and I just go, "Wow, how did I get to be part of this?" And help other people within it. So even though we have our own mission and we have the thing written, my interpretation of Medvale is we're doing why we all joined healthcare was to help others. So we're helping the top talent in healthcare as peer support, whether it's new concepts, whether it's learning things, whether it's pushing whatever they're working on forward, whether it's being there just for someone to say, I got a vent and get out of, help someone. That's my simplest way of describing it. There's so many more awesome things that we can grow. But as Jim and I talked many a time, the way to measure this is if we help one of our Medvalistas do something, they're going to touch, whether it's a physician in with a practice who has 5,000 patients or 10,000 patients, or a health system that's treating 100 or 200 or half a million patients. If we've improved it, we've touched that many people, and
Oh,
that's what we're really trying to do.
that's well said. I wish I would have stated that myself. That's a great why behind the what for Medvale for so many of us involved. By the way, you mentioned Jim, and for those of you that are not Medvalistas, and yes, we actually use that term to refer to ourselves. Sounds a little like Sandinista, which makes me uncomfortable, but we're going to roll with it anyway. When we say Jim, it is Jim Tronson, who's the founder and the mayor of this town called Medvale, and big visionary, and really brought us all together to do the things that Tom just articulated so well. You know, Tom, we've been talking lately, and in fact, I also want to rat you out. You lead the town council. I'm privileged to sit on that august group. Again, I look around and say, "What the heck am I doing here?" But in that forum, we've been discussing the real challenges of healthcare today. We have access and affordability. And you know, if you can't afford it, you can't access it either. So I think those two things are really intertwined together very closely. There is quality, of course, which is a theme that you find throughout healthcare. I've never met a physician or care provider that wanted to give anything less than high quality care, but it is something that we need to pay attention to. There is physician burnout. There is the dynamic of a pandemic that we're just coming out of that really did change the way some care is not only provided, but how we interact with one another, even in forms like the one we're on today. And then we get to things like the assassination on the streets of Manhattan of the CEO of the largest payer in the country. We get to the reaction by many supporting the assassin. Um, it's troubling to say the least, but as we've talked, doesn't that begin to give us an indication of something below the surface that maybe we haven't paid close enough attention to, a real concern on the part of everyday people about whether or not they can afford and access the care that they need?
Dave, I agree. We all of us that have been in healthcare or are looking at this, all agree healthcare's a mess. But then we got to break it down, like why. And I think the first thing is we have to say is trust. Healthcare has always been a trusting profession. We go to our doc. If my doc says go to this surgeon or go to this hospital, I go.
Right.
I may read about it. I may now Google because I can do it, but I trust. And if you can always survey, being a pharmacist by training, I was always proud of. Pharmacists were always the number two trusted profession. Well, if you kind of go to the last surveys, well, yeah, doctors, God bless, are still the number one. Pharmacists are two or three. Nurses, okay, that's all great.
Right.
But if you dig deeper, from 2019 to 2023, yeah, we're still up there, but the ratings have come down. So where we might have had been 60 or 80% trust, now they're 52 or 54 in the different categories. So yeah, we're still up there. And I don't know what that says about the rest of the professions, okay, because they're falling too. But trust is it. And we have to remember where we are. And the trust then, if you take that as the high bar that we have to cross,
Right.
then you can break down all of those things that's kind of crumbling in our foundation, right? If that's the foundation, I guess, and now we have leakage in the basement because of it, we've got to figure out where that is and how to do it and quit talking about it and actually do some actionable items. And I think that's what we're talking about with Medvale as well.